Hey, it's the preacher, and we're back in the kitchen today, and this time we're going to be making pickled eggs. Let me say a little bit about pickled eggs. I know not everybody likes them. I also know that they are fun to make, even if you can just get a couple people to eat them. What I'm going to be doing here is cutting up a half an onion, and just no particular thing. You could dice it, I guess, if you wanted to. I'm going to cut it in strips and just put it in my pot here. Break it up a little bit. Alright, in that pot I'm going to add a half a cup of water and a cup and a half of vinegar. I'm using eggs from our millefleur chickens, which are Banny breed, and there's a half. Anyways, they're much smaller, so I'm doing probably a half batch. But the main thing you want to keep in mind here when it comes to the water and the vinegar is you want to use 3 parts of vinegar to 1 part of water. So if you're going to make a batch larger than mine, do 3 cups of vinegar, 1 cup of water. So I've got a half an onion in there. And another thing I want to add to that is garlic. Now I've got a giant head of garlic, but I like garlic, so giants are okay with me. Let me peel it off there. And a lot of the recipes in the past, I just threw 2 cloves of garlic in the pot. By the way, it's been 2 years since I made pickled eggs, because I made them 2 years ago. They kept in my fridge in a 1-gallon jar for 1.5 years. I finished them up about 6 months ago. Alright, so I've got the onions in there, I've got garlic in there, I've got 3-to-1 vinegar to water. I want to put a half a teaspoon of salt in there. I've got a teaspoon measuring cup, measuring spoon, I can do a half. Alright, then I want to do a teaspoon of peppercorns. Now there again, any of these things you don't want, you don't have to add them. I just like to look in there and see peppercorns floating around. It makes me feel gourmet. This is a must really. You need pickling spice. To this batch I'm going to do 2 teaspoons. You know, pickling spice is a mixture of bay leaves and cloves and peppercorns and cinnamon and allspice and all that kind of stuff. I don't really know what all's in there. Anyway, so I've got pickling spice there. I've got all that. I've got it in here. I don't think I need this for anything else. I want to make mine hot, so I'm using some of my own ground up red cayenne pepper. And then keep in mind, anytime you add something red, even if it's a red onion or beets or anything like that, or red cabbage, it's going to turn the water red. So I want these hot, so I'm going to add about a whole teaspoon of my homemade cayenne pepper, and that will be plenty hot. So swish that around. Now I'm going to put this on the stove and bring it up to a boil. And the reason we're boiling is kind of ensure that everything gets mixed in, and also to soften the onions and to kind of sterilize it. I have a sterilized half-gallon jar right here. I don't think I'll need it all for this amount of eggs, but that's what I grabbed. I'd rather not wash a small dish they wouldn't all fit in and then have to go to the larger one, so I'm just going to go to the bigger one. Let's get this boiling, we'll come right back. These are the eggs of our millefleurs. These are Bantams. These are a small chick. Let me get a regular egg and just kind of show you the difference. Here's the egg out of our 3-year-old white Leghorn that my wife has at the public school. Here's our millefleur eggs. So obviously quite a bit smaller. Now, the thing about these eggs, any egg really, fresh eggs are harder to peel than store-bought eggs, because the freshness of the egg determines how well that membrane will release from the shell. One of the tricks, if you've got farm fresh eggs or just fresh store-bought eggs, they're not peeling well. One of the surefire ways to peel them and get them to peel easy is to cook them in a pressure cooker. This is an electric pressure cooker here. You want to put them on a trivet where they don't sit right down on the bottom, you know, and so that you want to put about 1 inch of water in the bottom, put the lid on it, set it to pressure cook for usually 9 minutes with large eggs. These are small, so I just did these for 6 minutes. Then I let it come down for 9 minutes, and voila, look how easy that peels. This egg's probably not a week old, and it peeled that easy. And it's not because of the size, it's because of the way the pressure cooker does it. Now, let's dump these, we'll see how many eggs we ended up with. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15. Alright, so we've got 15 eggs easily fit in this jar. Plus we got a half an onion, plus we got some spices. We want to make a little room in there and we want to slosh them around, so this will be perfect. I had some dill growing on the back porch and it was way too close together. So I picked some of it. I just went out and thinned a little one down that wasn't doing too hot. It was kind of getting overgrown by the others. And then I will take these and put them on top. And so there again, the deal, if you're using dried out of a jar, you're using fresh, a little bit of both, whatever, just go according to taste. These are eggs. We're soaking them in vinegar. You can vary the seasoning to suit your taste. Alright, there's what we're looking for. Now if you didn't add cayenne pepper to yours, it wouldn't be red, but mine is. Okay, that's hot. Woo! Man, that'll cure the Rona right there. Woo! Now, if I just dumped all my eggs in there and poured all this in there, all those onions and all that spice would all be right on the top. So I put a little dill in the bottom. What I want to do now is fish out some of the onions and ensure they make it to the bottom. You're going to set this in your fridge for a week. Yeah, you could eat them in 2 or 3 days, but I'd do it at least a week in advance. I want to get a good portion of these on the bottom. They'll probably try to float their way to the top anyways. I'm telling you, if your sinuses are closed, they would be open. Let's drop the whole spoon down in there. Alright, let's drop in a few eggs. To kind of weight that down. Yeah, now that weighted it down. I'm going to tell you what, that spoon's hotter than Dick's hat, man. Woo! Now, we'll throw in the rest of our dill. Then we're going to pour tell you what, I'm going to put just a little bit of water in there. I'm not adding enough water to mess up my mix. That's about maybe a tablespoon or 2. There we go. We'll set that right there. Now we'll drop in the rest of these eggs. Okay. Now before you go sticking this thing in the freezer while it's still pretty hot, you want to let it cool down and come to temperature. And I say room temperature. I'm going to leave the lid off. I have a lid for mason jars. We buy these little white ones. We use them quite a bit. Anyways, let this cool down. Put a lid on it. Stick it in the fridge. I would leave it in there for a week. And that'll give it enough time you kind of meddle. If your eggs are bigger than this, you may want to stick a toothpick through them to kind of ensure that some of that vinegar gets on the inside. The reason that I'm pickling these smaller eggs is because I get a better pickled flavor with a smaller egg, because it doesn't have to penetrate as far. If you look at any recipes online where they're doing red eggs or beet colored eggs or purple eggs, when they cut them, you'll notice that on the edges they're really red or really purple, and as you get into the yolk, it's almost white again before you hit yolk. So the pickled eggs, a lot of people in our area pickle quail eggs, because quail eggs would be about half the size of what I've got in there. But quail eggs are a little too tedious for me to peel, so millefleur, any kind of little banty eggs would be perfect for this. And we're going to let them cool down. I'll show you what this mixture looks like when it's through steaming and the glass clears up. But a week from now, I'll enjoy one. And now, pickled eggs ain't the kind of thing I sit down and eat a dozen of. I don't think I eat a dozen regular eggs. It's not something that I want to go eat every day, but low carb, if you're low carb, there's your snack. You may eat a pickled egg and not want to eat anything the rest of the day. But I kind of crave them every once in a while. So anyways, make them, impress your friends, scare your wife, bluff your children, punish them. Make your kids, if they don't clean the room, make them eat a pickled egg. There you go. Lots of uses. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Kind of murky. Pull back here and let you take a look at it from a distance. You can see garlic, and that's part of the pickling spice. Of course, I got peppercorns floating here. There's some dill. You'll see some onions in there. She's just about room temperature. Then a week in the fridge and we can start sampling. And we can sample for the next year in the fridge at least. I did a 1.5 years on my last batch. That was 2 dozen in a regular size eggs in a gallon jar.